Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 3, the Family of Imran, from verses 10 to 15. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful. إن الذين كفروا لن تغني عنهم أموالهم ولا أولادهم من الله شيئا وأولئك هم وقود النار. As for those who disbelieve, neither their wealth nor their children will avail them anything against God. These will be fuel for the fire. كدأب آل فرعون والذين من قبلهم كذبوا بآياتنا فأخذهم الله بذنوبهم والله شديد العقاب. Like the behavior of Pharaoh's people and those before them, they rejected our signs, so God seized them for their sins. God is strict in retribution. قل للذين كفروا ستغلبون وتحشرون إلى جهنم وبئس المهاد. Say to those who disbelieve, you will be defeated and routed up into hell and an awful resting place. قد كان لكم آية في فئتين التقتا فئة تقاتل في سبيل الله وأخرى كافرة يرونهم مثليهم رأي العين والله يؤيد بنصره من يشاء إن في ذلك لعبرة لأولي الأبصار. There was a sign for you in two parties that met, one party fighting in the way of God and the other was disbelieving. They saw them with their own eyes twice their number, but God supports with His help whoever He wills. And that is a lesson for those with insight. زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطر المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن مآب. Adorned for the people is the love of desires, such as women and children and piles upon piles of gold and silver, and branded horses and livestock and fields. These are the conveniences of the worldly life, but with God lies the finest resort. قل أنبئكم بخير من ذلكم للذين اتقوا عند ربهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها وأزواج مطهرة ورضوان من الله والله بصير بالعباد. Say, shall I inform you of something better than that? For those who are righteous with their Lord are gardens beneath which rivers flow, where they will remain forever, and purified spouses and acceptance from God. God is observant of the servants. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God, the Great, said the truth. These verses start with something that's incredibly important to remember. That God does give us wealth, and God does give us children in this worldly life. These are ways for us to build for our hereafter. In fact, that's the biggest chunk of material or provisions from our Lord, where we do get to build for our hereafter in something that can be incredibly, incredibly big, based upon God's guidance, His favor, and the ability for us to flourish if we are good people. Now, when I am buying a school or purchasing a school or building a school, and people are learning in that school about God, I am getting benefits from the work that I have put. God is quick in accounting. He is swift in accounting. So He knows how much of my effort helped those people as time goes forward, even after me passing away. And it's the same thing with my children. My children, if I raise them to be pious and God-fearing and aware of God, whatever good they're doing, it's because of my hand directly teaching them whatever God has taught me. So I had some direct involvement for how these kids were raised. So I have the ability to ruin my kids, and I have the abilities to raise my kids in a way that they're God-fearing. On one of them, the reward is me getting punished, and the other one, the reward is me being saved on the day of judgment, and it increases on my scale. Now, God is telling us here that those that deny or disbelieve, whatever they do with their wealth, and however good their children end up being, it's not going to change anything for them on the day of judgment. Because for your wealth and for your children to avail you on the day of judgment, the first step is for you to have proper faith, for you to approach your Lord in a way that is acceptable with God, something that is compatible with the system of God. Because despite you using your money in a positive way and your kids are raised and they end up finding God and becoming a pious people, you yourself denied that there is a hereafter. You yourself denied that there was a purpose for this life, and you technically did not like what God has created because you did not want God in the picture. Yet it's very important, it's very incredibly important for us to have God in the picture at all times, because whatever is being produced as results, it's from God. And we want to be able to actually plant as many seeds in this world where even after us dying, we're still getting positive scores and positive attributes in God's books after our departure from this world. As God says in a different chapter, that the disbelievers will ask, how long have you stayed in God's book? And they say just a part a day. But the people with knowledge, they will say, in fact, you stayed in God's book until the day of judgment. And that's true, because whatever influences that we're changing and we're adding or removing to these generations that are coming, we are directly influencing them. And this influence diminishes after time. But let's take the example of a blessed prophet like Prophet Muhammad. Anytime somebody's approaching the Quran and reading the Quran, he's getting a little bit of benefit from that guidance. It's just because he did his job. He did his work and he portrayed the message of God, and the message of God propagated by the permission of God, and Prophet Muhammad gets a little bit of that blessing. This is something that is fair. That's how I believe the world works. It's just because you are either part of a chain that is improving the world, or you are part of a chain that is corrupting the world. And every chain is independent, and you are going to be judged for every action that you do. So sometimes we really need to reflect on these actions, because we don't want to be in a position where we're just fuel for the fire. Now, obviously, there are people that will always disbelieve, and they will always try to do whatever they think is guidance, yet it's clear delusions. And God's giving you an example of Pharaoh's people. When they keep rejecting our signs, God is telling you that they will be defeated, and God will eventually seize that group of people and they will get punished. Eventually, i.e., that nation itself is going to be destroyed, or they themselves are not able to flourish and surpass as they did before, or on the day of judgment, they are going to be removed from this world as God, from anything in regards to grace, and they will be put to hell. So that's why we're always supposed to kind of tell the people who disbelieve, we do not need to repeat it verbatim, but in a way for them to understand the message. It's like, hey, you might think that you are able to beat me with your words, or that you are flying high right now, but there's going to be a day where you crash. And after that crash, you're going to realize how much pain and punishment you have, because you are promised to live forever. Are you an atheist? Are you a person who denies the resurrection? Are you a person that denies God's existence? The truth is, you are going to live forever. And it's better for you to understand this now and not allow your brain to dictate what reality is, but rather let God, the creator of this reality, dictate it to you. And he's telling you that you have to believe that there is a next level after this, that there is a place where you get to live forever, but you pick your dope. And that's why you are going to be defeated. So if you think that you are quick with your words and you're witty and you have great debate tactics, or that you are going to oppress the people who believe, if you think you're victorious now, your defeat is coming. Now, God is also telling us about those that do strive in the way of God, even with their own bodies, militarily, that it does not matter that the opponent, the size of your opponent, because at the end of the day, all things are judged by God. People who have weak faith and weak foundations and weak religions, they are unable to last even if they had the sheer numbers. It's just because their inconsistencies and their delusions, it does not allow them to make positive and correct assessments, nor do they make the decisions that avail them. While the believer, because they're so sure in God, it's very hard to shake that person or to move that person away from what he knows is the truth. So when it comes down to one of the hardest things in the world, which is battle, which is physical attrition, fighting, the people who truly believe in God and they're not scared of death or pain, they realize that their will of survival is so strong compared to their enemy that they end up winning more so than losing. And if they lost, it's just because they did not make the correct decisions for them to win, or that God is testing them on how they're going to react. Because if they are able to stay steadfast and they're able to maintain their composure, then the victory is coming, because God promised us to do so. But in times of defeat, I believe people should reflect on why they were defeated so that they would improve themselves in a way that is pleasing to our Lord, right? Not every time that we are defeated, it means that we did something wrong, but it means that we do also constantly need to be reflecting. But it is a great sign that it's not about your sheer size or your sheer power that's going to dictate the victory. As God states many times in the Quran, how many of a smaller group defeated by a larger group by the permission of God. And remember, when it comes down to any battle or any confrontation or any matter for that sake, God is always the one who's deciding the results and the conclusions. We could see in the Middle East, there's an oppressive force that seems like they're constantly getting the win. But maybe the side that is being oppressed, they need to reflect on who they are as an individual and who they are as a community and see if they were truly ever worthy of the victory against these super oppressive individuals and super oppressive systems and agencies that are against them. So it's not about you thinking that just because you are guided that you must win and the win is a victory. It's about you actually dedicating yourself to God properly, where God is in your life so that the victory is guaranteed. The guarantee of a victory does not come from you just giving lip service, but rather for you to be pious and loyal, because you're not going to be the one who's going to be winning, but rather God is the one who wins, and you want to be on God's side. And sometimes God allows you to lose for you to improve so that you win the bigger battle. As God says that there are many lessons, and there is a lesson in what God is showing here, that it does not matter the size of your opponent, it matters about your will to fulfill what God has said and your loyalty to God. And if you are the one who took the first shot and all the other rules, when it comes down to the rules of engagement, all of this comes in play because God is just and God is swift in account and God is extremely aware of what's happening, and God will not allow the disbelievers to flourish over the believers forever. Now, God is telling us about something which I find this verse incredibly, incredibly important, because we realize the things that are important to us. Yes, it's not as verbatim as it is now. So God mentions the adorning or the love of horses, for example, branded horses. In this day and age, not many people ride horses, but rather we have cars, and it's very clear that those people who are interested in such things in this worldly life, they like the expensive cars, they like the luxurious cars, the ones that go fast and have pretty colors or have these features that these most other average cars don't have. But people tend to sit and stare. But here's something that's also interesting about this verse, where God says that adorned for the people the love of desires such as women. So notice how God said people, which is inclusive to men and women. And then it was the desiring of women or the adornment of women. So it's very incredibly evident that the way that women look at men is not the same how women look at women. And the way that men judge women in regards to their look and things of what they consider as beautiful, women tend to judge other women on the same standard. But that judgment from women to men does not exist. Something that I've heard, and I believe it's quite true, is that even if it's an all women event and men are not present, girls still like to decorate themselves and to look extremely pretty among themselves when it's not about physical attraction at this point, but it's just the look of something that's beautiful and them desiring to look that beautiful and judging other women on how beautiful they are. And yes, these are the things that God has told us that truly what people want in this worldly life is to be pretty and beautiful, like the women that people like to put on certain pedestals. The children, because the children is what you believe, what a lot of people believe is like something that's necessary for this life for you to feel fulfilled. The gold and the silver is the money that people like to throw away and throw around and hoard. The horses are the things that we find exotic and indifferent and a status symbol, and then of course the food and whatever God is giving us as provisions. In our day and age, maybe it's the business that you're running is something that is an adornment for people. But this is all in regards to the worldly life. So you do not need to have the prettiest girl for you to finish your mission to God. You do not need to have the best branded horse or the fastest horse for you to be a pious person. Your business does not need to be in the Forbes 100 list for you to feel like you've accomplished something. because it's whatever God has been giving you. You need to find something that is better for the hereafter, as God says that these are just the provisions of this world, the conveniences of the world. This is what's desirable to you, but you need to control your desires. Just because I see a pretty girl, it does not necessitate that she would be a good wife or a good mother of my kids. And seeing somebody who is a good mother and a good wife, this is someone that I should prioritize because it is for the hereafter. And yes, we always consider people who are pretty first. It's just because God told us that's who we are as human beings. But there are things that we need to understand, that when we are getting this gold and silver and these horses and all of the other provisions that God is giving us, it's what we're doing with it what truly counts. So it's not illegal for you to have some desire for women and you acting upon these desires in a proper way, or for you to have a nice horse or a big successful business. This is not forbidden, but you do not want to overbuy into such things, because then you would be buying too much into the world and you would find yourself maybe dedicating yourself and thinking about these things more than the hereafter. And then you lose track of things and you start prioritizing these conveniences and these provisions over the remembrance of your Lord and the mission of God. So people, because of their love of women and children, they don't tend to go to fight in the name of God anymore. And God has clear verses about such people, where it seems like almost the majority of the world that claims that they follow the book of God, that's the trap that they fell into. That they don't want to lose their wives and kids right now. It's too early for them to pass away, and it's not worth it for them to pass away, because who's going to take care of my children? And all the other things that they like to use as excuses, where they show that they're not relying on God. So God is telling you that there is something that is better than that. And he informed us to tell the people, just like how he informed the prophet to tell us, the messenger. And we have to, instead of focusing on the worldly life, but to focus on the hereafter. Where that, and notice how God did mention women first. And it seems like, I believe a lot of people, the relationships is something that is always the priority in most people that do want to kind of take a little bit of bite of the worldly life, whether you're working for the hereafter or working for this world. It seems like having a companionship and the right person in your life is something that people always put up with, or the chase first. And God is saying that this is something that's going to be there for you, and everything that you believe that you're missing out in the worldly life, God is going to give you a garden where you have rivers flowing under it. You have these amazing purified spouses, but most importantly, God is going to be happy with you. He's going to be happy with what you have presented. And for us to truly be able to get that reward from God, we need to be able to move away from these worldly desires in a way that it does not overtake us. We don't want to be people who are denying the hereafter or becoming hypocrites, say we want the world. We want the hereafter, but we're working for the world. And the only thing that we talk about is these desires. Oh, what kind of car is awesome? And which kind of kid is better than the other kid? And which sports you like to watch? And which girl is the most beautiful girl in the world right now? Because this is all vain talk and idle talk that does not get you any benefit on the day of judgment. But rather we want to take this wealth and the kids and whatever God is giving us from his provision, whether it's our own seed or not our own seed, and truly raise them in a way that is going to help us on the day of judgment. It's such a short trip here on this world. And the more positivity we do, the better we are. So I do implore you, my brothers and sisters, to truly always think about the hereafter and try to judge our decisions on why we do what we do, and try to make it for the hereafter. And with that said, I truly hope you guys are enjoying these, and peace be upon you, and all praise to the Lord of the worlds.